Reed.
So about
What's up, good people of the internet? I'm Jessie Coffield, and this program you're tuned into is The Sweat. I'm extra sweaty right now because the day has finally arrived and football is back, baby. Obviously, we'll talk about this weekend's games and the Packers-Bears tonight, but we've also got college football on the menu with some baseball sprinkled in. Bryan Reynolds joins the program, as does Cowboys beat writer Nick Eatman. So much to get to. So let's bring in our NFL panel and get started. DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler, and Roto World's Ian Harditz. So we're kicking off the NFL season with some sportsbook options for tonight's Packers and Bears Showdown, aka NFL kickoff. No need to get complicated. Let's get right to the line. The Bears are 3.5-point favorites. Who do you like here, Jeff?
I mean, there's just nothing in the trends or anything that is pointing me towards the Packers, so I've just got to go with the Bears. I mean, you're just looking at what the Packers did as away favorites last year. They were 1-4-1 as away underdogs, and then you have the Bears, who were 6-1 as home favorites. So I really think this line is too small for the Bears. I think that at -3.5 or -3, whatever it's at right now, it's just not giving enough respect to the Chicago Bears, who were basically one field goal kick away from reaching the conference finals last year. I think this line should be closer to 5.5 or 5. And I think the fact that it's Green Bay, it's Aaron Rodgers, a popular team, I think it's keeping this line down a bit. So I really like the Bears in the spot.
Reed, Bears 3.5-point favorites. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Jeff here. I think Green Bay's got a defense that might be a little underrated right now. I think when you look at what they did in free agency in the offseason, they got better players, obviously, in the secondary with Adrian Amos, who was formerly with the Bears, now with the Packers. But if you just look at this linebacking core, and I'll talk about it a little bit in our Showdown segment, it's been depleted by injuries. And you have Blake Martinez there in the middle. But I just think when you have a core like David Montgomery, who we're all really excited to see, Tariq Cohen and just Matt Nagy, being able to see this team, week over week, twice last season and do pretty well against these guys, I think it's really Green Bay's chance to potentially cover. But if you just look at Aaron Rodgers and his last 7 as an underdog, we've seen that stat quite a bit, that he's not done very well. He's not done very well when he's an underdog in the last 7. He's not won once. And I got Green Bay putting up probably 21 points in Chicago, probably putting up about 25, 26. So I'll take the Bears here.
Ian, any chance you want to go with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers here?
Unfortunately, we're all in agreement on this one. I got the Bears here. Look, this was the best defense in the league by far last season. And I don't want to say only lost because Adrian Amos was good, Bryce Callahan was good, but to only lose 2 starters from that group and neither guy was really, one of the key difference makers, I'm expecting them to be, maybe not the best defense in the league again this year, but top 3, top 5 at least. And I think that's going to be plenty against the Packers offense that we're more or less just hoping that Rodgers turns things around, even though we have 3 years of evidence that he's not this 2010 and 2014 just pulling rabbits out of his hat every other play quarterback anymore. I mean, they brought in Matt LaFleur from Tennessee. It took him till week 13 last season to figure out that Derrick Henry should probably be getting the ball more. And I'm just not convinced that with pretty much the same offensive personnel, the Packers are going to just turn this around and become a juggernaut on offense again. So I got the Bears, and, Reed's got his score prediction. I got 21-17, a little bit tighter, but yeah, I think the Bears cover.
Wait, but Ian, Aaron Rodgers gets to call audibles now. He gets to call audibles at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he's going to roll out of the pocket and lead and throw away passes again is what he's going to do.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
well, we actually have Roto Wire's Jerry Donabedian joining us. Let's make it a quad box here. So, Jerry, the Bears are 3.5-point favorites tonight. Who do you like?
Oh, well, you didn't even need to bring me in here because I'm with everyone else. I love that it's at 3.5 instead of 3 being on the wrong side of that field goal. But I think the Bears, they've got home field advantage, and they've got the advantage at pretty much everywhere besides quarterback. The Packers certainly made some nice upgrades to their defense in the offseason to close that gap between the two teams. But, yeah, I think the line and just the general expectation of a close game, I think people maybe have week 1 from last year in their heads. And that game was in Green Bay. The rematch, we saw the Bears defense hold Rodgers to 0 touchdowns, 6.5 yards per attempt. I think it'll be a good game tonight, but too much of the optimism about Green Bay is involving Matt LaFleur being a better coach than we've seen Matt LaFleur be.
Okay, hopefully we can unfreeze you there. Now, Reed, the over-under is set at 46.5. Tough to tell where these offenses stand without any regular season games. So is the under a good spot here? I think you said 25-21 was what you had.
Yep. Yeah, so if my math is a little bit better than Jeff's, that's right at 46. So I got the under here. One thing, though, that we didn't mention about Chicago's defense, although they're still going to be good, like what Ian was saying, they brought in Buster Screen. Not a very good signing. He's played in the slot quite a bit. Not very good. That's why I like Geronimo Allison. But I think if you're Green Bay, you're going to attack that. And so I think there might be a little bit more passing. But, yeah, I got this going under. Jerry,
you want to take the under here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under, too. Like I said, Green Bay is bringing back the exact same guys on offense. I don't know if I've ever seen a team bring back so many of the same players on the offensive side, and yet be hyped as a team that's going to take a big step forward, kind of just on the basis of that the last coach was that bad that anyone is much better. I think that Rodgers will put up some points, just working his magic. But yeah, I think you're looking at one team that's improved on defense and another that's still going to be pretty darn good and probably closer to like the 41, 42 point range here.
Ian, these defenses too good for this to go over?
Yeah, I mean, what I was just saying about how the Packers, got it echoed as well. Packers didn't make any changes on offense, but they did make some good changes on defense. Adding Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, it's going to help that pass rush. They've needed a little boost there, especially losing Clay Matthews. And, they got some young, talented cornerbacks. They haven't always been healthy, but Jair Alexander flashed at times last year. Kevin King's finally healthy. I mean, these are two pretty high draft picks over the last few years that have shown the talent to make some plays. So, and look, I mean, Mitch Trubisky, he was okay last year. He still hasn't started a ton of games. Maybe he gets better. There's also a chance he could just be Midwest Blake Bortles. So, I mean, I got the under here because I like both these defenses.
Jeff the boat.
Mentioning Mitch Trubisky and Blake Bortles in the same sentence is not. Don't do that. That's ridiculous.
Do it all you want.
I'm going to be the guy who takes the over, I guess. I mean, I have a lot of faith in this Bears offense. They did play too timidly at times last year, especially in week 1 against Green Bay. But I think that's a reason to expect them to be more aggressive in this spot. They have a ton of weapons to take advantage of mismatch. I mean, Tariq Cohen out of the backfield, David Montgomery. I think the Bears are going to put up some points, and I think that'll force Aaron Rodgers to put up a few more points as well. And I'm not supremely confident. Like, I like the Bears against the spread a lot more than I like taking the over, but I still would take the over in the spot if forced to choose.
Okay, last night on the show, Jeff and Reed and I talked about Bears rookie running back David Montgomery and his yardage outlook for his NFL debut. But tonight we're joined by Jerry and Ian, and we have another way to look at tonight's running backs. So on the DK Sportsbook, you can bet between the rookie and Green Bay starter Aaron Jones to see who will have the most rushing yards tonight. Montgomery has minus 124 odds to have more rushing yards than Jones, with Jones sitting at plus 100 to be tonight's lead rusher. Jerry, who has the edge in that race?
I would take Jones even if the odds were flipped. I almost have arguing against Montgomery fatigue at this point. I think there's just been so much hype built up there. And, whether he's going to be a good player or not, I think kind of 50-50, maybe not all that the hype has been built up to be. I know he broke 8 million tackles in college, and we have all these quotes about how much the Bears love him. But athletically, he's nothing special, and he doesn't really have the backfield share security that we know Aaron Jones has. Mike Davis might only poach 3 or 4 carries, but I think he'll be involved in some fashion. The Bears' game plan, they could certainly come out throwing more, which would favor Tariq Cohen. So I just think Jones is the safer bet to get at least a dozen carries, and he's also proven that he's a good NFL runner. We still have to find out if that's true with Montgomery.
Ian, who are you going with, Montgomery or Jones?
I got Aaron here, Aaron Jones, we've been asking to get him freed for years. It finally seems to have happened. I mean, we've heard about the Packers still using a committee, but let's face it, every team except maybe 5 in today's NFL uses a committee. I'm expecting Aaron Jones to hopefully be, on the bigger 70-30 side of a split with Jamal Williams. And I don't know what the case is with Montgomery. I don't really have questions about him as a running back. But, like we're talking about, the guy's broken 1 million tackles. I think he's proven he's a capable runner and everything. But, the way the Bears approached the preseason without any Mitch Trubisky snaps, like we just never had a chance to kind of see what their first team offense looks like. Last year, it was just Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard. And if Montgomery can get that same Jordan Howard role, awesome. But Mike Davis is there. That's a wild card. And, Tariq Cohen he's not going to go sit on the bench. So if we see something where, Tariq's playing 30% snaps, Mike Davis 10 or 20, all of a sudden, we're only going to see Montgomery on the field for half the plays. So it's just more of a pure opportunity thing for me, and that's why I got Aaron.
Jeff, you like that argument? You want to go with Jones just because of the opportunity?
I mean, I honestly don't really know which way to go here. I mean, you got Aaron Jones going up against the best rush defense in the league, and then you got Montgomery, who's probably, like Ian just said, he's going to be a part of a 3-man committee. Like, Mike Davis is going to take a few carries, and even if it's just a few, it's going to limit his upside to win this bet. So I would probably lead Montgomery because I'm pretty bullish on the Bears, and if the Bears get ahead, it just means maybe a couple more carries for him, and I just don't want to take a running back going up against the Bears. So I would lead Montgomery here, but it's really close. Like, this is kind of a tough bet. I mean, unless you really got something like up your sleeve here and you really got like a lean one way or the other, it's not something I would personally touch, but I'd take Montgomery, forced to choose.
Reed, 2 for Jones, 1 for Montgomery. Where are you going? Yeah,
I wish Jeff didn't say that because I agree with what he was saying, and I never like to agree with Jeff. But it all depends on how Montgomery starts. These guys hit the nail on the head, right? Is we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but if Nagy comes out and he says, hey, I want to establish Montgomery early, and he gets a 6-yard gain and a 5-yard gain, and then he starts to see this guy pick up some steam. I know Mike Davis is a talent, and probably for season long, one of the better handcuffs that we're not talking about. I can easily see Montgomery getting that 16, around that 15 to 16 type carry range, which could potentially allow to what Jeff was saying. If this game, and I do like Chicago, gets a little bit out of hand, I think you want to run this guy to get experience. But at the same time, getting plus money on Jones, that's a really good bet. Vic Fangio is no longer there. So this is a strong defense, but a lot of that, and if you ask the coaches, and this has been reported all throughout preseason, the coaches have said the hardest D coordinator to plan against was Vic Fangio. Him not being there, I think, is a big question mark for the Chicago defense. They're still really strong, but if having to choose, I'm siding with Jeffrey, even though I don't want to.
Okay. We like that you included that caveat. Amazing work, you guys. Stick around. We'll get your showdown picks later on. I'll be taking a look at tonight's 7-game baseball slate after Adam Kaufman delivers a conversation about this week's top story, the signing of Ezekiel Elliott, plus everything else you need to know about the Dallas Cowboys.
NFL season's here, so I am glad to be chatting again with our pal Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com beat writer for the last 2 decades. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well, doing real well. Football's back. How can you be doing badly? And there's lots of excitement there in the Big D, so I'm sure everybody's thrilled, not just for the new year, but because, of course, the Boys' star running back is back in the mix with a record-setting deal, Ezekiel Elliott. And how relieved is everyone around there to have this thing done?
Oh, yeah. Relieved is not even the start of it. Obviously, there's high expectations, for this team and to go out and exceed what they did last year. But to do that, they've got to have their best player. And I've said all along, I think Ezekiel Elliott is their best player. And, so I think that there's a lot of relief because to get to the goals of where you want to be, you can't have any setbacks. And that was going to be a big one, trying to rely on a rookie there. And ultimately, it was a standoff, but ultimately those two sides came together.
Owner Jerry Jones called him the best player, too, so you're in good company there. It goes without saying, obviously, that Ezekiel Elliott is vital to the Cowboys' offense. He led the NFL in rushing last year. Second time he's done that. He eclipsed 2,000 total yards. So that being said, how much does he mean to Dak Prescott's success leading that offense? How different a team is this for Dak without Zeke on the field?
I mean, we have seen it a little bit in 6 games there when he was suspended in 2017. It's different because when you get down in the red zone, you just don't have that guy that can push the pile and move it forward. So I think that it's definitely a big deal to not have a dynamic running back out there. I think Pittsburgh saw it last year. Yeah, you can replace him with some guys, but when you don't have somebody that can do everything like Zeke does, it's going to put more pressure on Dak. He's not the type of quarterback that we've seen, that he just slings it around for 300, 400-yard games. That's not his style. That's not what he's comfortable with. So when you rely on him to go win games, that's not really something he's done a whole lot, and definitely not done it without Zeke.
The expectation, Zeke only going to play 20, 25 snaps in the opener with the Giants just because, again, he's been, off on his own. He hasn't been at training camp. So what kind of initial production do you expect from him after he did sit out all of camp and all those team workouts to work out on his own in Cabo?
I think it's going to go with how he's performing in the game. I mean, you can say only a little bit of snaps here or a pitch count or whatever, but I guarantee you that, if third and fourth quarter come on and the game is in doubt and they need him, I think that they can rely on him a little bit. And my point all along is, he's a freak. I mean, freaks can do things like this. Not everybody can play the same way. Not everybody can go play baseball and go play football the way Deion Sanders did, or the way Randy Moss could just not stretch before game and then go and tear up the league. And Zeke, I think, is in that category. He is a freak type of guy where if anybody can be in Cabo and miss all of training camp and preseason and come in on a Wednesday and play at a high level, it would be a guy like him.
You don't sound worried about a guy like Zeke going rushing for a 3rd title.
I don't. No, I mean, I think the only reason that he won't do that is if they do implement Tony Pollard in there a little bit more, spell him some. I mean, they just made a huge investment to the guy. And so, they're trying to keep him around for a few more years. And so to not pound him and give him 35 carries a game, I think they would like to do that. I still think he's going to rack up a lot of yards, rushing and receiving. I don't know if it'll be the rushing champion, but because I do think they're going to spread the ball around in the passing game some too.
One guy obviously they'll be looking to, Amari Cooper, and he uncharacteristically struggled in Oakland last year, but he thrived when he got to Dallas. 9 games, 725 yards, 6 touchdowns, also handled a 25% target share. So Dak Prescott was looking his way an awful lot. Do you expect him to pick up where he left off?
I do. I think that he'll be even better. I know he had a setback some with his foot injury, but he's practiced this week. He'll be fine. And, it's funny when you look around the league and you think, Oakland didn't want that guy. For some reason, they didn't want that guy. But the guy they have now, there's obviously some issues there. So to say that's a big win for the Cowboys to get Amari Cooper, he's taken that offense to another level, and now he's had a whole offseason. I think he's going to be really, really good again.
Welcome back to The Sweat. Our baseball panel for this evening is this DK Live duo, Steve Buchanan and James McCool. Chase or fade time, so agree or disagree with the following statements about tonight's 7-game slate. Only 2 road favorites tonight, with the Cubs being favored over the Brewers and the Nats getting the edge over the Braves. Steve, with these matchups featuring teams that are all still battling for playoff positioning, chase or fade that neither of the road favorites will pull out the W tonight?
The Brewers have to be counting their blessings that they're still in the playoff hunt right now. Like, their offense has just been absolutely dead in the water as of late. They're averaging just 2.8 runs over their last 5 games. I don't think there's any chance they win this game tonight against Jose Quintana. He's been pitching on a whole different level really since the beginning of August. He had 1 bad game against the Nationals. Everything else has been absolutely stellar. Not too crazy about the Braves beating Steven Strasburg either. I know they've gotten to him before, but I think Strasburg is in such a good spot right now. The Nationals offense, on the other hand, has been great. So I like them a lot more in this spot.
James, chasing or fading, neither road favorite will pull out the W.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I think these two both deserve to be favorites on this slate. Like Steve said, the Brewers have been really, really bad on offense lately, and Jose Quintana has been much better as of late than he was in the beginning of the season, and I see no reason why Steven Strasburg shouldn't be a favorite with how well the Nationals are hitting right now. After having a couple good games, that huge comeback against the Mets, they're kind of in the zone right now as they continue to build up steam in that conference. So I think that taking either one of these guys is smart. If you don't think that both of them will win, I definitely prefer the Cubs side of things to the Nationals, just because I think Cubs offense is in a better position.
All righty, guys. Twins and Red Sox with the highest total on the slate, set at 11.5. These teams have combined for exactly 11 runs and 8 runs so far in the series. So, James, chase or fade that tonight is the night that these teams finally go over the total?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Red Sox to put up a lot of runs, but I don't know that I like the Twins to put up a lot of runs. Nate Eovaldi has been really, really good over the last month in his last couple starts. He's only given up a couple runs, and his strikeout rate has been right back up to where he was last year. After a really hard start and him going back into the bullpen, it seems like he has his stuff back. I don't expect him to pitch too many innings, maybe 4 or 5 at the max, but I do think that he's going to make it through that without giving up too many runs. So you'd really have to look to the Red Sox bullpen to be giving up quite a few runs here, in my opinion. So I think it's a better chance to take the under.
Oh, Steve, you want to go over here?
Yeah, I'm going to take the over in this spot. Like, Martin Perez was like my baseball boyfriend for the first couple months of the season, and then he reverted back to being that guy that we always used to pick on when he was with the Texas Rangers. I mean, he's just been absolutely coming apart since basically the All-Star break. He's averaging just under 4 runs allowed when he's on the mound during that time span there. And kind of like what James said, Eovaldi has definitely looked better, but he's still giving up a lot of hard contact. And like he also said, he doesn't expect them to go deep in this game. I would definitely agree with that. Red Sox bullpen has been going back to their old ways as of late as well. They've really been struggling as of late. And this is one of the best offenses in the league. So, I mean, if there's a team that you don't want to struggle against, especially when it comes to home runs, it's the Minnesota Twins. So I think this game definitely has the potential to hit the over here. I think Perez is going to get knocked around in this start by the Red Sox. So, yeah, I think it will go over on this one.
You can get plus odds for 4 different Astros to go over 1.5 hits tonight against Seattle. George Springer, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, and Yuli Gurriel. So Springer has collected multiple hit games in 3 of his last 8. Chase or fade that he's the best option out of this group to go over 1.5. Steve.
Yeah, we definitely got to beat up somebody for not updating the script. I'm going to blame somebody. I won't even name names. But so Springer's out. Springer's got like a concussion, so that's not going to happen. Jose Altuve is probably the best one to take here. He's batting leadoff tonight. Obviously, if you're going to take somebody to get this, the leadoff hitter makes the most sense here. We all love that BVP, but he is 5 for 13 against Marco Gonzalez. Yordan Alvarez is obviously another person to take a look at here as well. So I think either one of those are in a good spot here, but I definitely know Springer.
Well, James, if Springer's out, who you going with?
That was good. Yeah, I'm going to go with Yordan Alvarez. I just think that he's one of the better, more consistent hitters on this team. Altuve has been hitting well, but I have the splits a little bit better in terms of xWOBA for Yordan Alvarez in this matchup. So, I'm going to go with Yordan Alvarez, but I do think that any one of Alvarez, Gurriel, or Altuve are probably fine picks here against a bad pitcher.
Good stuff, baseball duo. I'll go look over the rest of the script, okay? Speaking of baseball, Pittsburgh's Bryan Reynolds will join the program after the Pat Mayo Experience gives you a look at tonight's Captain's Showdown contest between the Packers and Bears.
Is there any sort of ownership level that a player could get to in a showdown contest where you would just flat out avoid him? Or would you play enough volume in terms of lineups that maybe you match the market on that player or take an underweight position, but you're not saying, hey, fade this guy?
Yeah, that's tough. Usually when someone gets that high, it's because they have the highest floor and the highest ceiling, like a Devontae Adams type. And I definitely don't want to fade him as far as all of my lineups, just because that could be the recipe for getting that $0 return that I'm trying to avoid. I have been thinking a lot about the captain position, and that's one of the things I've been thinking about changing with my approach this year. And I have been thinking about whether or not there's situations where people get too heavily owned at the captain position. So if like Rodgers was going to be 20% owned at captain and I could just fade him at the captain spot, but still play him elsewhere, like that's something that's crossed my mind. I probably won't make a decision until like 7:45 on Thursday when I actually submit my final lineups. But I do feel like quarterbacks get a little bit over owned at captain, and there potentially could be some edge or some leverage to be had there.
Let's discuss the captain slot as it pertains to this slate. And we'll talk about this from either someone playing 1, 2, or 3 lineups, the normal person who's not max entering the 150. I know it's difficult for you to do because you've had so much success doing the 150, and that's what you do. But I'm talking about someone like me, and that, I just want to throw in a lineup. I hope it wins, but I want to put my best foot forward and not just lose all my money like I did last year. So if I'm thinking about this, if I'm only going to play a limited number of lineups, do you think that avoiding Aaron Rodgers and Mitch Trubisky as your captain is probably the way to go in this spot?
Yeah, I think that would be the right way to go in like a 3 max lineup build. I think I would prefer to start with some of the wide receivers at the captain position. Potentially Devontae Adams would be the safest captain. That's probably chalky, but he kind of provides the min cash for you there. And then maybe you can find other ways to differentiate. And then you could probably get some contrarian captains on the Bears side of things, whether that was Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, Taylor Gabriel, or even if you wanted to go with Shaheen, who I know is going to be a question mark as far as his playing time, but the cheap salary just frees up so much to do whatever you want with the rest of your roster.
He does. So he would end up coming in at $600 if he ended up being your captain in this situation. But because you get the multiplier for points, is his expectation, like what would he actually have to do to, like, let's say Adams goes off and Shaheen has a good game. He has like 4 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown, which would be just tremendous at that sort of savings. Do you give up too much because of the multiplier in your captain spot by having him there instead of the guy whose upside is 8 catches for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, so if Adams were to go off, like go bananas, he's going to have to be your captain and you'd want him there. I think where the punt captain starts to make sense is actually if all of the high-priced players do well, but nobody does supremely better than the other. So if they were all to put up roughly 20 DraftKings points and Adams was to get that, Rodgers was, Trubisky, maybe Allen Robinson, and there's not any kind of wiggle room with the salary there, and you want them all in the same lineup, and you have that tight end performance with 4 for 40 and a touchdown, I think then that becomes optimal. If one guy smashes, like you're going to need that guy at captain and you'll want the value players elsewhere.
Joining me now is Pittsburgh's Bryan Reynolds. Bryan, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So it's your rookie season, called up in late April, and since then you've done nothing but hit. You're currently second in the NL in batting average. Has year one gone better than you could have imagined?
I mean, yeah, it's meeting every expectation I could have wanted. Started a little bit earlier than I expected it to as well, but I'm just taking it in stride every day and just enjoying it because it's what I've worked for. So yeah, it's going really well, and I'm really happy with it.
Again, you're a rookie. Has your status in the clubhouse changed from day one to now when you're fighting for a batting title?
I mean, not that I've noticed. Everybody's, they treated me well from the day I came up here. We got a good group of guys, so I wouldn't say anything's changed major, which is how I would want it and how I think it should be.
Speaking of the batting title, clearly it's a very individual achievement. I'm sure you're aware of it because people won't let you forget, but is it something you think about once you step on the field?
I try not to think about it on the field because if I do, it's, it'll drive me crazy. I get enough, every interview I feel like they ask me about it, so I get my fair share of it there. But, I try to keep that in the rearview mirror as much as I can. Just focus on the game and what I can do.
Yeah, when we said people wouldn't let you forget it, we were talking about the media, people like us. So how much has being a switch hitter helped you in terms of getting comfortable at the plate in the majors?
I've always thought switch hitting has its ups and downs. You get to miss the slider that's going away from you, so that'll help you get comfortable. But then, most of my bats have been lefty, so sometimes my right hand will feel a little weird just because, I don't do it a lot. But I think it's helped me adjust just because I don't have to deal with the power sliders going away from me. But, yeah, it has its days.
So there's a stat that's popular among analytics types. It's called BABIP, batting average on balls in play. In other words, your average in at-bats where the end result wasn't a homer or a strikeout. The MLB record for BABIP in a single season is held by Rod Carew, who had a 408 BABIP in 1977. So your current number is 410, which would break that record. Did you have any idea about this, or have you ever heard of this stat before?
Yeah, I'd heard of the stat. I didn't know what my exact numbers on it were, and I think I've been asked about it a couple times in interviews here and there. But yeah, I don't know what contributes to having a high, batting average of balls in play, but the higher the better. So, if I can hit it and it falls, I'm all for it.
That's a great way to look at it. So you were originally drafted by the San Francisco Giants in 2016, but you were sent to Pittsburgh in the Andrew McCutchen deal in 2018. As luck would have it, you made your MLB debut on April 20th of this year against the Giants and collected your first MLB hit in that game. Was that extra sweet doing it against the team that drafted you originally?
Yeah, it was kind of ironic that it happened against them. I enjoyed my time over there, made a lot of good buddies, and the coaches and staff were great to me, but yeah, it's kind of funny that it wound up me debuting against them, and thankfully I got a hit. But yeah, it's pretty cool how it all circled back.
Your first career home run came 7 days later. Do you remember the details of that at bat, or is that kind of all just a blur?
Yeah, I remember the swing. I know it was a pretty long at bat. I was fouling off some pitches, and I was just trying not to strike out, and he gave me a good pitch to hit, and I barreled it, and I thought I had a chance, but, I wasn't comfortable enough to kind of jog right out of the box. I was sprinting hard, but I was pretty relieved, pretty happy it went out because it was late in the game and gave us a lead, and, one less extra inning we had to play, so it's pretty cool.
You won a College World Series at Vanderbilt. How valuable was that experience prior to making your transition to the pro game?
Yeah, I think my time at Vandy, all around was really helpful for where I'm at now. It's a great school, great coaches, everything's great about it. You're playing against the best competition, and, you're playing in front of a lot of people and, some hostile environments sometimes in the SEC, and playing in Omaha again in front of thousands of people. It's just kind of, it gets you ready for pro ball, and, it just sets you up because you're playing against the best.
Hey, what's up? It's Thursday, and it's that time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Taryn Azak. Week 1 is officially upon us, and Melvin Gordon is still nowhere to be found. With the Pro Bowl running backs holdout continuing, fantasy players shift their focus to the Chargers' backfield duo of Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson. Head coach Anthony Lynn gave us some insight as to how he plans to use his running back Sunday against the Colts. Lynn said, "I've always used those guys as a tandem. That's not going to change. We're going to put guys in good positions to do what they do best." Last season, with Gordon nursing a knee injury, Jackson broke out against the Steelers. He totaled 63 yards on 8 carries, including an 18-yard touchdown run. He projects to be the more explosive of the two backs, but we did see Eckler getting the bulk of first-team reps during the preseason. So the bottom line is we are still in wait-and-see mode with this Chargers backfield situation.
Joining me now is Ben Rasa of Awesemo.com, here to look ahead to this weekend's top games in college football. Ben, one game that you're really interested in is Texas A&M versus Clemson. What caught your eye in that contest?
Yeah, we saw last year Texas A&M, they played them really close. Now that was in College Station, but 28-26, so this is kind of a revenge spot. Neither team was really tested in week one, but I have a feeling that Clemson will be tested here. A lot of new faces on defense, particularly the defensive line, which completely went to the NFL. So I'm really interested to see how Trevor Lawrence and Clemson handles this spot.
Is there a game total or maybe two that you're looking to target on this weekend's college football slate?
So besides A&M, one, and I can't believe I have to talk about Tennessee here, one of the worst losses I've ever seen last week against Georgia State. But this is a spot, if they can't beat BYU at home here, laying 4 points, the season seems like it's going to crumble. So I have a feeling they rally the troops. Fans will be behind them, that they come out and, I don't want to say make a statement, but I do expect them to respond after just one of the worst showings I've ever seen to start a season.
Okay, what about which game this weekend has the biggest upset potential?
So I'm going down to Florida for this one. Florida Atlantic, 10.5-point dog at home. They get UCF, who, doesn't really lose too often. But I have a feeling this is a little trap spot. They warmed up with Florida A&M in week one. Florida Atlantic had to go to Ohio State, so no shame in getting blown out there. But this is a team with Lane Kiffin, creative on offense. I think they can match the physicality up front. I wouldn't be stunned to see this game be close, and honestly, for Florida Atlantic to maybe come out with the victory.
Oh my God, you are so lucky Emerson is not
I know.
here.
I was thinking about that. That was, I knew he wouldn't like that.
Yeah, we're lucky he's not here, and hopefully he's not watching. Focusing on Saturday's slate, which game has the potential to be the most lopsided? I mean, Alabama is a 55.5-point favorite over New Mexico State. Is that just like the obvious choice, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to make quick work of them. There's a few teams. Oklahoma State plays an FCS opponent in McNeese State. I'm not even sure if that will have a line, but if they do, they'll probably hang 60, 70 points. But Bama is another one. I'm not sure if New Mexico State will score at all in that game.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ben. Coming up, we'll turn our attention back to baseball with Put Up Your Bueks. But for now, here's the Panel B podcast on the Week 1 outlook for Jags running back Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette is not getting enough buzz for this week.
Sure.
He's priced at $6,100. And I feel like he's priced for his poor season last year and not more towards the matchup. Like, if Fournette had a season like he did in 2017, easily in the 8K range. 6,100 against one of the worst run defenses in the league against the Chiefs is not a free square, but kind of feels like a free spare at running back. Like, you can pair him with almost anyone and still have a good amount of salary left over. So I'm shocked that he's as cheap as he is, and people are kind of flocking out of the plays. Like, Chris Carson's going to be a very popular play in the same price range.
Dalvin Cook.
So if everyone's going to be flocking to those guys, even better. I'll like Fournette even more. And if the rumors and innuendo are true that he's been getting a lot of work done in the passing game,
right,
all the better.
Yeah, that's 100% the key, I think, there. Him and Cook, those two are the guys that I would be debating between in that range. Given
Chris Carson's in such a good spot too.
Right. I mean, the Falcons, though, going up against the Cook, historically at the bottom when it comes to actually covering running backs out of the backfield. The big thing will be the receiving end for Fournette. I mean, we saw Zeke take that step last year that has made him invaluable, adding the target share out of the backfield. Not a big one, but just something.
Yeah.
And a lack of much behind Fournette too, and that Yeldon's not there anymore. You got, I think it's Raquel Armstead is the main backup right now.
Not nearly as good of a talent.
He is a guy that's a great handcuff this year, though, given that we know Fournette's injury history.
Back to baseball with DK Live's Steve Buchanan and James McCool. Plus, we are adding Doug Norrie, owner of DFSR.com. The time has come. It's Put Up Your Bueks. Steve gives his 3 picks of the night along with DK point projections. Then James and Doug will weigh in on his choices. Your first Buke, please, Steve.
Yeah, we're going to go with John Means here against the Texas Rangers for 22 DK fantasy points. I can't imagine his ownership is going to be too high tonight just because his second half has been pretty putrid, to put it nicely. But you look what the Rangers have done lately and what they really haven't done. 3.4 runs over their last 5 games. Look at the lineup tonight. 5 of those hitters in the lineup have a K percentage of over 25% against lefties. Look, Means had a really bad month of August. There's no doubt about that. But it wasn't because he was giving up a lot of hard contact. Only 24.4%, which actually was the lowest of the season, which is pretty surprising when you look at some of his numbers, especially back in April and May here. So at 6,100, I think he's an absolute steal against his Rangers team tonight.
Okay, James, 22 fantasy points. What do you think?
All right, let me get this straight. So you think that a Baltimore Orioles pitcher is going to put up 20-plus fantasy points in any game, much less at home, against a team that does have some quality righties? You're basically saying that he's going to have to get through 6 innings, allow no runs, and strike out 5 and get the win, right?
I mean, however you want to draw it up, Jimmy.
That sounds like that sounds like the best case scenario for somebody in that position, and I just don't see it happening. I mean, it's not like the Rangers are only going to put lefties out there. They've got a couple righties. They've got Nick Solak, who has a lot of power. They have Logan Forsythe, who's been better as of late. They do have some switch hitters out there as well. Like, Rougned Odor hits lefties pretty damn well, too. And you and I both know that as soon as Means is out of there, that Orioles bullpen is going to blow whatever lead he might have. There's no way 22 points happen.
Okay.
Doug, do you agree? No way 22 points happens?
Yeah, 22 seems like a pretty tough putt. That being said, I mean, you can be on both sides of this. You can think 22 is too high, and he still is a good DFS play or a decent DFS play tonight. It's look yourself in the mirror time when you're an underdog to the Royals at any point. So the Rangers have themselves to can probably not feel great about that. But it's 6,100 on DraftKings, so I take the under on the 22 and still say that for one of the only times this season that a Baltimore Orioles pitcher is in an okay DFS spot. So it's sort of a yes. It's a yes, but yes, and somewhere one of those two is where I kind of land with Means.
Okay, so James said no way. Doug said maybe.
Yeah,
Steve, let's get your second Buick.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Garrett Cooper here for 16 DK fantasy points. He's just in an absolute stellar matchup against Dario Abriznal, whatever the hell his name is. Look, all I know is against righties, he's awful. 393 WOBA, 6.09 xFIP. Oh, look at those sweet graphics. Very nice, guys. Cooper's got a 41.7 hard hit rate quickly in the month of September. 5 hits over his last 2 games, 2 of those which are home runs. We've seen the Marlins have like these random offensive outbursts like here and there. It seems like maybe once a week. All of a sudden they just kind of go ham and everyone's like, what just happened here? But Cooper's probably one of their best hitters aside from Starlin Castro, which really just goes to show how high the bar is over here in Miami. But I think Cooper's in a really, really good spot here. So 16 DK fantasy points. And for James, it doesn't have to be a home run. He can get like 2-3 hits in this game and you can still reach it. Like the math still works for him. So go ahead.
Doug, we'll let you take the first stab at this one.
Yeah, Cooper. Well, Cooper is a reverse splits guy, so he is better against righties. So you look to see that Agrisal's terrible. The strikeout rate is abysmal. So the idea that he's going to put the ball in play at least works in his favor. So I do like those points about him. I just say about the Marlins, people tend to pay more attention to the Marlins offense than they should, mostly because typically you're rolling pitchers against them. So I think that people tend to tune into the Marlins more than some other teams, mostly because on a night-to-night basis, that's just where DFS ownership is going against them in terms of arms. He just gets dragged down so much by the rest of the offense. That's the only reason it's one of the reasons I don't really like Cooper in this space. So I'll take the under here. Whenever your plate appearance expectation is decreased because the rest of your team really stinks, you just do run out of maybe sometimes opportunities to put up the points. So I think I'll take the under on Cooper. Don't mind him as a play and don't mind him as a hitter, especially with the platoon here. Again, dragged down by his matchup, though. The Agrisal thing really does throw a question mark around it because he's so bad.
James, I know Steve already kind of laid it out for you, but I'll let you put your own spin on it.
I actually really like Garrett Cooper. It's like the one time that Steve is actually going to like come at me for something, and I really like Garrett Cooper. I think he's a really good value. Over the last 97 plate appearances, he does have a 4.85% expected home run plate appearance, which means that he can probably hit a home run against somebody who has such a high home run potential like Dario. So I don't have anything to fight here. I just like Garrett Cooper.
Wow, Steve, I bet you didn't see that one coming. All right, final Buke, please, Steve.
Well, that's what happens when you come with the king. You know what I mean? You're gonna get going down. I like Victor Robles in this spot for 12 DK fantasy points. He's a really cheap way to get some exposure to the Nationals, batting second tonight. Not a big power hitter, but he's a really good base stealer. 11 of his 26 bases have been stolen against lefties so far this year. I think this is a sneaky spot for the Nationals overall. I mean, Max Fried has been good on the mound, no doubt about that. Nationals are one of the best offenses in the league against lefties. I like that Robles is hitting high in this lineup too as well. Like I said, I like the stolen base upside that he brings in this matchup here. So nothing too crazy here, but for 3,900, someone batting second in a lineup that could produce some runs tonight, I think it's a good spot.
Okay, James, the final Buke, what's your take?
Yeah, Victor Robles, he's a really, really bad hitter. He has a really low contact percentage, and he doesn't get on base very often. So when you're going up against somebody like Fried, who really does have a high strikeout rate, I just don't really like the chances, even hitting high in the lineup, of him getting on base enough in this game to really take advantage of the stolen bases. Now, if he does get on base, for sure, I think he's probably going to steal something here, but I just don't like his chances to get on base that much. You can use him in DFS as part of a stack, but if you're looking at him as a one-off, I just think there's way better options. Doug, I saw you laughing there. Go ahead.
I'm 100% with James. It was the not very good hitter part that got me, because he really isn't. And sometimes a fantasy line can skew your opinion about how good a player actually is. The 16 home runs and then 24 stolen bases, which have nothing to do with the hitting, really will make it look like sometimes a guy can be a better, he's great in the field, so he's a good baseball player, but they can make a guy look like a better offensive player than he really is, and that really is the situation with Robles. If it wasn't for the stolen bases, he really should be an eight hitter, which he usually is. So the 324 on base percentage just doesn't lend enough credence to the safety around the point. So I'm with James here on this one. The overall fantasy line looks better than he really is in real life at the plate.
Okay, slate approved pick time. Steve, who's your lock of the night?
Garrett Cooper. I just really think he's in a good spot against Dario tonight, so I'm going to go with him.
James, is yours Garrett Cooper too?
Should be.
No, mine is Elvis Andrus for the Rangers. I think that going up against Orioles is just the best spot you can be in.
Doug, slate approved.
I'll go on the mound, Austin Pruitt for the Rays, finally getting the start, not going the long relief route. So nice, really nice price on DraftKings and getting a good matchup too. So I'll go Pruitt on the mound.
Excellent work, you three. Go enjoy your night. Wrapping up with NFL Showdown picks coming up next.
Hey, it's Carolyn Azak with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores says running back Kenyon Drake will be heavily involved on offense against Baltimore Sunday. I think he's both physically and mentally ready, Coach Flores said. He called him one of the most talented players on the Dolphins roster. Drake has been pretty consistent and is coming off his most productive season after totaling 535 rushing yards, 477 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns in 2018. Drake missed 3 weeks of the preseason with a foot injury and was in danger of losing his job to second-year back Kalen Ballage. But Drake has since been declared healthy and he's ready to take over a prominent role in the Dolphins offense. He'll have a tough Week 1 matchup against a Baltimore defense that was top 3 against the run last season, but his volume may outweigh his matchup on Sunday.
We wanted to let you know about a new game variant on DraftKings called Flash Draft. It will be live for tonight's Packers-Bears showdown. It's a new mobile-only game only for NFL primetime games. Contests run every few minutes during the live games, and it allows you to quickly draft a team for the game's next quarter. You get 5 rounds with 15 seconds to make each pick and choose who you think will have the most fantasy points in the next quarter. You can choose between 3 given options with no salaries. The more people that play, the more you can win. So give Flash Draft a try tonight. Final block of the show here on The Sweat. Let's bring in our football panel. DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler, Roto Wire's Jerry Donabedian, and Roto World's Ian Harditz. Going quad box here. Need your picks for tonight's Packers and Bears Showdown contest. First up, your captain's pick. Who are you going with, Jeff?
I think in this game, you got to target either one of the high-end wide receivers or one of the quarterbacks. And I'm going to go with Mitch Trubisky. Again, I kind of outlined already. I just feel like the Bears offense is in a pretty good spot here. I think they're going to be a little bit more aggressive than we saw week 1 last year when they kind of gave the game away late because they were too conservative. Trubisky averaged 30 yards rushing per game last year, and he had some absolutely monster performances. So especially in the big field showdown GPPs tonight, I feel like Trubisky's got the upside that you want. Again, I do feel like you're going to need one of those big price guys tonight. I don't think you can go value necessarily, but I like Trubisky in the spot.
Reed, your captain, please.
Give it up to the graphics guys. This is awesome. This is great. And then also give it up to Ian Harditz. No hat today. This is the first time I think I've seen him with no hat, so I appreciate that. I'm going with Geronimo Allison here. I'm going to save a little bit. I agree with Jeff that you can easily go with one of the primetime guys with Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, if you think that Green Bay is going to be coming back. But I kind of outlined it at the beginning of the show. Buster Screen is in Chicago, and Vic Fangio is not. That's the recipe for a lot of potential getting targeted in the slot. He played at 57% in the slot in 3 or 4 wide receiver sets, gave up close to 120 passer rating when targeted. He also gave up 13.5 fantasy points per game to opposing receivers. That is a recipe for this big body slot receiver. I want to save a little bit in my captain spot here. I think Geronimo can get in the end zone and get a lot of yards.
Jerry, who are you taking in your captain spot?
I really like Reed's idea with Geronimo Allison. I'm actually going with the slot receiver on the other side of the game, though, who I think will be a slightly more popular choice, but kind of same idea. You're staying away from the big names, getting someone that not a lot of people are going to have in their captain spot. And in a game that I expect to be lower scoring, I don't really want Rodgers or Trubisky in there anyway. And looking at Miller's matchup, he's facing off against Tramon Williams, a guy that, a familiar name, but he's 36 years old now, and he hasn't really covered the slot much since 2016, back when he was with the Browns, and he struggled in the role then. The Packers are, I think, mostly putting him there just because they want Jair Alexander to be a full-time outside corner. I think Alexander probably would be their better option there. But just looking at Miller last year as a rookie, he was very efficient, 7.8 per target, 7 touchdowns on 54 targets. And he was playing with a shoulder that he separated like 6 different times through the year. I mean, there were some games where he's basically playing one-handed, and now he's going to be coming back healthy, and he's got the good matchup. And as a slot guy, he actually sees some work downfield a little more than you'd expect, 10.7 average depth of target. So we're not talking about like a Willie Snead or Danny Amendola slot guy where you're going to need him to catch 8 passes. Like, he can go off on 4 catches.
Ian No Hat Harditz, who are you going with for your captain?
Yeah, some hardo on Twitter said I look like I live in my mom's basement, so I had to make some wardrobe adjustments. So here we are. But no, I'm going with Tariq Cohen in the captain spot. And look, I'm just trying to pretty much pivot off the David Montgomery hype because I think he's going to be really high owned in this slate. And going with Tariq there, Bears get behind a little bit. They start checking down to him. I don't think there's anyone on the Packers that can cover this guy in open space. And sure enough, they were 32nd DVOA against receiving running backs last year. So, having a dual threat guy in that captain spot, give me some points rushing, give me some points receiving. I like Tariq Cohen.
Okay, so now that we know who all of your captains are, who's a good complement to play with your captain, Reed?
Yeah, Ian just took it from me. It's Tariq Cohen. I won't belabor what he already said and repeated, but they just signed B.J. Goodson, or they just traded for B.J. Goodson a few days ago from the Giants. He's not really going to scare anyone. And Ty Summers might get the start. Oren Burks is hurt. He's out with a pectoral injury. And outside of Blake Martinez, who's going to guard Tariq Cohen? I mean, you might put a nickel guy on Tariq Cohen, but this guy is too good. He's too fast. I really like him to complement if you want to play on the other side of the ball. And that offense it screams. And if you look at what Matt Nagy has done in the past, when he was in Kansas City, he trusts these guys. And I think Tariq Cohen is, even though he had a lot of run later in the season and Nagy said, we need to dial it back, not this game. This is the first game. He's going to come out. He's going to be firing. So I like Tariq.
Jerry, who's a good complement to your captain?
Well, going with Anthony Miller, Mitch Trubisky, I think the scenario I'm kind of trying to target here is Trubisky having a decent game, but not a great game. And that the guys with all the hype, Allen Robinson and David Montgomery, disappoint people and really knock out a lot of lineups. And then Trubisky, Anthony Miller, Geronimo Allison. And that kind of leaves me some room to where I can take a Devontae Adams, even though I don't necessarily believe in him having a huge game. I just think he's going to get 11 targets or so. And maybe that I don't think he'll be efficient enough where I want him in the captain spot, but I want to find a way to get him in the lineup. Like, he's the guy in this game you know is going to get volume.
Ian, who are you rostering to complement your captain?
I'm rolling Trubisky as well. Got to compliment Tariq. And Jeff brought up a great point about his rushing floor and upside. I mean, it's wild. The only starters that have more rushing yards per game than Trubisky last year were Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. I don't think people really think of Trubisky as that type of quarterback, but he really is. I mean, one of these, he was a great best ball quarterback because he's such a boom bust guy. And he had 4 finishes last year where he finished in the top 5 quarterbacks in that week, including 2 overall QB1 weeks. So, tournament first or last, let's roll the dice with, like I said, Midwest Blake Bortles. Sorry, Jeff.
Jeff, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ian's gonna bring that one up throughout the year, I can tell. But no, obviously I like Trubisky, and if I want to put Trubisky in the captain spot, I'm just coming right back with Allen Robinson. I mean, look, he didn't do exactly what people thought he was going to do last year, which was be the really de facto like wide receiver 1. But you look towards the end of the season, 4 of his last 5 games, he had 5 or more catches. He absolutely dominated the Eagles in the wild card game as well. Obviously, they fell a little bit short there, but I mean, Allen Robinson got better as the season went on over his ACL injury. So I expect he's going to actually increase his market share. I'm not that high on Anthony Miller, although I admitted that he could go off, like Jerry said. He really just needs like 1 or 2 catches in one big play. But I think Allen Robinson is gonna increase his market share as far as targets go this year, and I think it could start week 1. I like the connection they had at the end of the year, so I think stacking Trubisky, Allen Robinson could be the winning play tonight.
Okay, give me some value I can work with here, Jerry.
Well, a couple guys stick out looking at Trey Burton being questionable, which we should have official word on any second here. I actually just checked real quick to see, but nothing official yet. But yeah, with Trey Burton questionable, I think less than 100% even if he does play. The Bears have to put someone at tight end. Adam Shaheen isn't someone I really believe in, but he's basically free. I think he's 400. So yeah, really free. And then if you want to kind of go with the less common play there, you could go with Cordarrelle Patterson, figuring maybe with Trey Burton out, they might mix in the occasional 4-wide formation that wasn't a part of their offense last year. But, when Adam Shaheen's your top tight end, maybe you change that up a little bit, manufacture Patterson a few touches, and maybe have that, crazy chance for a kickoff return.
Ian, where can the people find some value here?
Crazy chance from the most efficient kick returner in the history of the
NFL.
Man. I'm all over Cordarrelle Patterson here. My guy, look, Matt Nagy's talked about, I'm expecting to see multiple plays, not just one, where, we're seeing Cordarrelle Patterson used as a chess piece, getting creative, getting gadgety. He is a gadget guy, but, he only costs, I think $1,000 on his Showdown slate. I mean, he's going to get more opportunities in open space than Adam Shaheen and, anyone else that's really priced below the kickers on this slate. And, we saw some videos in training camp, him lining up as natural position running back. We know he can be the wide receiver in a pinch as well. Give me all the CPAT.
Okay, Jeff, talk to me about value.
Yeah, I let Ian take Cordarrelle Patterson. He is too cheap, and I definitely like that play. I'm going to go the other side, though. Everyone's talking about the secondary wide receivers for the Packers. I honestly don't know who is going to get the ball there. So why not just go down cheaper to Jimmy Graham, who's like almost $3,000 cheaper off Geronimo Allison. Look, Matt LaFleur, one thing he did do better in Tennessee than Mike McCarthy is use his tight ends. 7 touchdowns to the tight end position, despite having basically like a 3 nobodies. I guess Jonnu Smith is okay, but you get my drift. I mean, Jimmy Graham and company only combined for 4 last year. I expect the tight end position to be better utilized in Green Bay. And I think Jimmy Graham could be in for a slight bounce back, at least as a red zone target. So I think at 4,600 in a game where Aaron Rodgers might be passing and then the Packers are away underdogs, I kind of like this price for him.
Ooh, the tight end position. Reed, find us some value, and do you like Jeff's pick?
No, I never liked Jeff's pick. No, he actually has the right idea. I mean, Sternberg, right? Jay Sternberg is put on IR. Jimmy Graham is old. and we don't necessarily know what the production is going to be there. And he's onto something. But give me Jay Kumaro. I mean, his guy's less than $1,000. We know the preseason connection that Kumaro has had in this offense, and we've just heard it before. We've heard how much Aaron Rodgers and that mustache have talked about this guy in the preseason. And you just don't know if they go with 3 wide receiver sets. They don't necessarily know the health of Jimmy Graham or the effectiveness of what this guy's going to be able to do. So if you want a really, really cheap option, because he's less than $1,000, I like Jake Kumaro.
Trey Burton is officially out, by the way. BT Dubs. Yeah, okay. All right, now last thing here. Ian, is it worth playing either defense in this game?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're on these single game slates, you just gotta, think that there is a possibility that we get this low scoring game, and maybe the defenses wind up being the highest scoring players. So we talked about, some of the personnel changes on the Packers earlier, and the Bears are obviously a more talented defense. They're gonna be the higher owned one, but gotta also look at the quarterbacks they're facing, and I think it's clear Mitch Trubisky has a higher chance of turn the ball over than Aaron Rodgers, who, will do anything in his power to never throw an interception, even if it means throwing the ball away like 10 times a game. So I'm fine with both, but normally I've been kind of getting more of the just lower priced wide receivers and the kickers over the defenses myself.
Jeff, what's your take? Is it worth it to play either of these defenses?
I mean, the Packers are definitely going to be lower owned. So from a tournament perspective, you're going to get more leverage. But again, the Bears have such elite returners in Patterson and Tariq Cohen that I just love pairing one of them with. I mean, a Bears Patterson stack, for me, that's the way I would lean. And I do kind of like the Bears in this situation. Again, they're being a little bit disrespected. They remember the opening loss from week 1 last year. I still think it's a good spot to deploy the Bears.
Reed, what's your take? You want to play one of these defenses?
I don't think you have to. I think what the guys are saying and what they outlined was spot on. If you look at Chicago, right? I mean, number 1 in DVOA last year, I think number 2 in rush defense. But I mean, that's not really going to change. And I think as the season progresses, Green Bay is going to be a dark horse defense. I think when you have these new faces there, which they usually don't do, they usually don't go in the offseason and sign some guys. They did this year. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, but not tonight.
Under 30 seconds. Jerry, what's your take on the defenses?
Well, I'm on record saying that I think the Bears are going to cover, and I think it's going to be an under. So definitely think the Bears are a viable play. Also think the Packers are. If they fit in with the rest of the construction of your lineup, sure, neither needs to be forced. And just real quick, this is not something I would normally consider on a full slate, the kick returner defense stack. In case anyone's wondering, Mason Crosby's touchback percentage is right around 50% each year since they moved it to the 35-yard line. League average is around 60-65%. So, maybe a little better odds than usual for Cordarrelle Patterson. Again, that is only something we can consider on a Showdown slate. Do not take that logic to the main slate on Sunday.
Only for Showdown. Awesome stuff, guys. Go enjoy the game. The Sweat will be back tomorrow at 6. Be sure to tune in.